Hey everybody, Karen from Spirit Guides. I hope you're doing well today. So we are going to find out from the Lead Team Collective whether or not Adam and Eve is a true story or not. Okay. I don't know how this came up in another video and I was like, we should talk about Adam and Eve. So I did a poll. So that's my thing right now. I love this poll thing so much. It's enjoyable to see how the community feels about different topics. So every morning at 6 a.m. Central, you'll get a new poll. If you're subscribed and you get your notifications, you could just go into polls too if you don't have notifications on. And one of the recent ones was Adam and Eve. Is Adam and Eve a true story? That is what I asked. So 524 community members voted. And 8% said yes. 8%. Okay. 69% said no. And 23% said not sure. This just gives you an idea where, the makeup of our community. Not to judge each other, please. Let's not do that. It's totally okay that 8% of you believe the story is true. That's delightful. It is totally okay, right? And it's totally okay that 69% of our community doesn't believe it's true. That is okay too. All right. So most of our community said they no longer believe the biblical account of Adam and Eve is literally true. Instead, many wondered whether it's an allegory, a symbolic story, or an adaptation of an even older creation accounts. Others questioned whether the story was later changed to support ideas such as original sin, patriarchy, or male authority. Many of you also connected the story to topics such as extraterrestrial involvement, genetic modification, the Book of Enoch, which I don't know too much about. I've been hearing people talk about that. The Watchers, Lilith, Atlantis, Lemuria, and humanity's original origins. So I have a feeling we're going to be answering some of those kind of questions as well. Okay. So we've got 17 questions and we had a lot more comments. So when you do the poll, you can always leave your questions there. Then I pull all of those and I ask AI to organize them for me. And an AI will kind of sort through and take out any duplicates, okay? So that we're not asking the same thing over and over. And then there's 2 personal questions related to this. So that'll be fun to see what those questions are. Okay, I got my little prayer. So I close my aura to all but my higher self, the God consciousness, my guides, guardians, the Lead Team Collective, and only those of the highest and purest light, and ask Archangel Michael to please protect my channel, your channel, our community, the Lead Team Collective, so it is all of the highest and purest light. Amen. Hey, Lead Team, how's it going today? Good. I think I've already chatted with them today. Well, I talked to my own spirit team, just, with the whole 30-day challenge. We're all writing letters, right? At least some of us are. Okay, so if you're new here, you probably have no idea what I was just talking about, but that's okay. You can hang on. You can join us now. You'd have to go back and kind of find out what that's all about. It's in the post area. So, okay, so Lead Team, we've got some interesting questions here regarding Adam and Eve. Are you open to answering those for us? They've never said no. Yes. Okay, very good. Okay, so question number 1. Was the story of Adam and Eve intended to be understood as literal history? Oh, so no. Okay. And again, allegedly in entertainment purposes only. So if you do believe, and it's again, just continue to believe it. If that makes your heart filled with love to believe that story, then that's all that matters, right? Because if it doesn't, then, it's we're looking at love or fear. If you believe the story and it makes you feel fearful because of the story, then that's a different story. But you know what I mean? So Anything that makes us feel filled up with love, feel filled up with love. Oh my gosh, that was hard to say. Then that's really the direction we go in anything, right? Okay, so if not, is it primarily an allegory? Which you guys are using big words, man. I grew up in higher ed. I don't even know what that word is. I mean, I have a sense of what it is. So yes. Okay. I'm just going to look that up because I just want to read. I'll read it to you. Okay. So an allegory is a story, play, or picture where the characters and events act as symbols. Okay. All right. So they said yes to that. Now I got to find my questions again. Where are they? Adam and Eve. Okay. Let's see. Is the Adam and Eve story based on an even older creation story? So you guys are going to know way more than this kind of stuff than I do. Yes. They said yes. So please have conversation in the comments about this, regarding how they answer, because I'm not sure I'll be able to expand on a lot of the questions. Were Adam and Eve real historical people? Okay, they're saying yes and no. So they're saying yes and no. So was the story made? So the story was made up. It is a story. Yes, but was the story, whoever made the story up, was it based on actual humans, like actual beings? Yes. Okay. So that's what they mean by that. Were they the first humans? Were Adam and Eve the first humans? No. Okay. Again, this one's a little tricky because I don't know. Usually if I have a little information about something, I can expand. I'd have to say I really don't know much about this story, except, the temptation of the apple and all that. Okay, is the story connected to humanity's creation by extraterrestrial beings? Yes, and by extraterrestrial beings, we mean us? Yes. Okay. So when we use the term extraterrestrial, that feels, let's just say, is the story connected to humanity's creation by spirit? By spirit, this gets convoluted just from my understanding, by those in other dimensions. Yes. So humanity was created so that we would have a place to come. We, meaning all of us, spirits. We were living on different dimensions, and we wanted to have a 3D experience. Is that correct? Yes. And the 3D experience became Earth. So we're like, hey, let's create this galaxy called, and a planet called Earth, and let's design it in a way that we can survive on there to have this 3D experience. Yes. So by extraterrestrial, then, we're all extraterrestrial. It's a hard term. It's a hard term because there's so much around that even in my own head. So when I think, that's why I'm challenging myself even to think about this. So when I think of extraterrestrial, I think of, we have Earth, and then there's the galaxy that Earth is supposedly moving around in, although we're going to have that conversation at some point. And there's other beings on other planets called extraterrestrials or aliens, because they're alien to us, right? So, but I don't think, that is not my new perspective. That's why I'm bringing, I don't know, what do you guys think extraterrestrial means, right? So anytime I see that now. And that was in somebody's question, so I'm going to honor that, but then we'll just have conversations around it just based on what I'm currently understanding. Doesn't mean I'm right by any means. So this says many community members wondered whether Adam and Eve symbolically describes extraterrestrial genetic engineering. Okay, this came from the question. Humanity being brought to Earth or intentional changes to early human DNA. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, let me ask those more specifically then. So many community members wondered whether Adam and Eve symbolically describes extraterrestrial, again, let's just say genetic engineering. Yes. Okay, so there are other beings on other dimensions that the DNA, I'm processing this, the DNA was formed together to bring the DNA to Earth so that we would have these bodies, this vehicle to float around in, to walk around in, right? So that's how I'm seeing it. So the thing that's living inside, that's moving my spirit, that's moving my avatar around, is the extraterrestrial, is what we would call it, extraterrestrial. So that's how I'm seeing it now, okay? Because when you leave this vehicle, you're going to go to that other dimension. Some people call it heaven, but it may not be. It may be, you may come from a different, it depends. You could be a star seed, those types of things. So, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, this is why I'm really interested in kind of exploring all these different topics now, but from a different lens. Even the stuff going on in the world today, like really questioning everything as we continue talking about it. So, okay, but then the next one was humanity being brought to Earth. So humanity was humanity brought to Earth by the souls from source, like all the souls decided that. Did I explain that correctly? And it's okay if I didn't. You can say no, obviously. They will say no because they're not picking up on my biases. They know that's one of my boundaries. They're not supposed to do that. Okay. So, or was it just source who said, I'm going to make this planet and I'm going to send my children or those, that are of me to this planet, and are we then the only? No, we're not the only. Is Earth the only place that we can live? No. Okay. And I know source was involved, obviously, because source is everything, but was Earth designed specifically by a huge group of beings from other, we'll say, planets, dimensions, that sort of thing? Yes. And is it safe to say that all of our higher selves or our spirits were involved in the design? Yes. So rather than you thinking, this is where now I understand separation. When they say the part of the awakening is so that we realize we're not separate from the whole design, right? So we were a part of designing Earth, which is why it's pretty ridiculous when we don't take care of Earth better, since we were all a part of it, right? It's just we all have a little differences on what we believe is taking care of Earth, based on what we were taught, based on what we believe. We're all trying to figure out now what actually is the truth, Okay. Or this was part of that question, intentional changes to early human DNA. Well, we had to have started somewhere. So I just have this feeling I could just see us sitting around in our lounge chairs, sipping on some martinis, which I don't drink, but okay, martinis, and being like, you know what? Let's get even separated further. Let's get more polarity and see what that feels like. Let's go farther away from source. I explained this before because this is explained in the book we're reading right now in the Spirit Circle. Source is at the very top. At the very over here is the most polarity. So you'd go, so let's just, okay. So source for 12, let's say, this is just say 13 dimension. I don't know how many dimensions. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. 3 is down here. Look at the polarity. That's why we experience that polarity. Where the archangels, my understanding from the Earth Experiment book that we're reading, live at the 12th. And they feel polarity, but it's so little that they can be like, you know. So we get to experience all that polarity, the left, the right, the dark, the light, and I think part of our awakening is coming out of that polarity, is coming out of it, I saw a comment, what did I post? I posted about the deep state. One of the posts, I think I'm going to be doing that video soon too. One of the polls that I did was, do you believe the deep state is causing an oil crisis? And one of the comments was, they referred to she, and I'm assuming they meant me, but they said, basically they're giving up. She'll never leave her party. Like she's never going to get rid. And so, I mean, again, I read into this, but I was like, okay, am I she? Am I she, whoever wrote this? And like, she's never going to basically give up the left. And it's like, yeah, I have given up the left and I've given up the right too. Obviously, and I was talking about the deep state. So I don't know. It was kind of interesting. It was interesting to kind of process through that person still feeling, because I am so out of it now, but I was definitely into the division. But it's interesting that person, and I'm only talking through this a little bit so that we can all look at ourselves. So it's interesting that person thought that I was still into division when I could see the division because I was asking about the deep state. So there is a division question there for sure between us and the deep state and everybody else, right? But the comment was, she's never going to leave her party. So as if I was still a part of a party thinking about the deep state. So I don't know. It was interesting. So just be thinking about that. It's always something I want to be doing from now on is, what do we want instead? Right? What do we want instead of being, instead of always feeling like we're divided, right? So what do we want instead? What do we want instead of feeling that way? So always be thinking, that's my question for now on. You're going to be sick of it. I guarantee you're going to be sick of me asking that question. What do we want instead? Because what we focus on is what we get. Now you could say, well, Karen, why are you focusing on the deep state? Because we've got to come to understand it. We have to come to understand things so that we can say, but I want this instead. The thing is I'm not going to just understand it at this point. We're going to go to the next level, right? Okay, moving on. All right, so were there multiple groups of early humans rather than just one Adam and Eve? Yes, really wide swing. Great questions, you guys. I would have never been able to, I wouldn't have known what to ask. Okay, is the story connected to the Book of Enoch, or is the story connected? Is the story of Adam and Eve connected to the Book of Enoch or the Watchers? Oh, yes. Okay, so the Book of Enoch is an ancient Jewish text not included in most Bibles. It describes mysterious beings called the Watchers, whom some interpret as angels and others believe may represent non-human intelligence. What? I mean, I've heard the Book of Enoch, but is that a book we should read in the Spirit Circle members? I don't know. Is it? I'll have to look into it. Okay, that's really interesting. Does the serpent represent something other than a literal snake? Yes, really wide swing on that. If so, does the serpent represent a non-human intelligence? What? Yes. How did you know to ask that? Yes. Yes. Interesting. I have a feeling this episode might, I don't know. I hope it's not controversial. None of this is meant to be controversial. It's just here for us to explore new perspectives. Was the story of Adam and Eve intentionally altered over time to diminish the divine feminine? Oh, yes. And reinforce the patriarchy? Oh, got it. Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, the last book we just read was Mary Magdalene Revealed. And unfortunately, I can't remember the details about it, but she does talk about that in there. I wonder if I could find that really quick, what she said. Let me go get the book. I'm going to see if I can find that passage. I couldn't find that passage specifically, and actually I'm not sure she actually says anything about Adam and Eve in here, but I'm telling you, her afterword, which is the last chapter of this book, is like, I almost want to read sections of it to you because it is just so powerful. And it does relate to this conversation, but I'm not sure even where to start. But I mean, basically, there's one thing she says about really our whole awakening process is to remember the true human is the self and the soul united, the self and the soul united. And it is about stripping ourselves of all the stories we've been told, which has to do with Adam and Eve, right? All the stories we've been told and all the ideas that have been fed to us that makes us not remember that it's the self, the ego, and the soul, that it's that full experience. We're not just a self, right? And all the stories, including Adam and Eve, is meant to feed the ego in one way or another, and to keep us divided from ourselves, which also divides us from other people, because then we fight about what we believe, right? And she says in here, again, this is the book I'm looking at, Mary Magdalene Revealed. She says that she basically sums up what Jesus Christ really wanted. He didn't want to be, she says, we are to acquire it for ourselves as he commanded us, which translate to me, Megan, the author, as seeing Christ as an example, a way shower, a trailblazer, and what it means to be human. It didn't mean to idolize or worship or distance Christ from us and from what it means to be human. Mary Magdalene has proven, this book right here and her gospel just shows us that Christ he just was another soul who came down to earth, and he wanted to just say, hey, I'm going to show you how to remember that you are also a spirit. You're also a soul. And instead, he ended up being idolized and worshiped, and people got lost in the worship. We have gotten lost in the worship, and look at what has divided us. And he not happy about that. I can tell you that already. He's not happy about that. Not that he doesn't, he has that feeling of unhappiness. But I've had a couple conversations with him, believe it or not. And you could go back and listen to those. He doesn't want to be worshipped. He never intended it. He was a human being just like us. He was making mistakes. He was, having fun. He was doing what humans do on Earth. But he remembered who he was. He had access, just like many people, even people here, have access to, similar to me having access to chatting with the lead team. He had a deeper access to source. And to the abilities of the other dimensions, and wanted to show us. He just wanted to be an example. But what she says is, and remember, we've been given amnesia. That was part of the Earth experiment, basically, just so that we wouldn't remember, because otherwise we wouldn't want to stay here. Like, it would be a very hard, it is a hard experience, clear cancel, right? But it's harder than the other dimensions, basically. And so we wouldn't want to stay here if we knew that. But what I really love is she says, we are aware again. Okay. Because, sorry. I'm just kind of skipping down, but so this says, okay, so he didn't want to be idolized or worshiped. This says he commanded us to try as we are each able to experience the truth that he realized, which is that within the human heart sits a treasure. Because when I speak, if I speak from this place, from this treasure that has been hidden from us, then I use a voice that is more than my own. I become a voice in service of love. And I find this, I'm going to read just a little bit more, but I find that it's so simple. You're either approaching life or a thought, or you're receiving information or a thought or whatever. Is it have the intentions of love, or does it have a different intention? Fear, anger, whatever, the lower vibration. Are your decisions being made from love? Are you interacting with other people from love or fear and anger? That's the polarity. You get to choose, but it's quite simple if we want to do. So many people worship Christ, and I think this has been my hardest. That is why I was so turned off as a child from Christianity, from Catholicism, because I saw the hypocrisy really early from my own family. I saw the hypocrisy of not people worshiping something that was all love and supposed to be of service to others and learn the 10 Commandments and not following them. So I think that was my issue early on, which is why I've just never had an interest. So, and if we all just started, if our leaders would approach it's all about give, me, give, I want it. We want it. It's ours. We're going to get that, this is our land. It's, it's like, whatever, or your religion sucks and blah, 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 So she does say the good news, as a voice in service of love, that God is simply good, that God is not male or female or removed from us, high above or beyond our comprehension. God is simply the good, which exists within and between each of us. The good news that there is no such thing as sin, We have nothing to be ashamed of in being human. Again, she got this from, she's a very Christian. She's a huge Christian. And she loves Mary Magdalene. And so she got this from she's very studied. Got this from Mary Magdalene's gospel. So, which was hidden from us, purposefully hidden from us. And that just tells you, that's why I think people are suspicious about the story of Adam and Eve, right? So it's hard to know. But if we just stay in love, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if the story's true or not. Was the story, is it feel manipulative? Is it a story of love? If it is, then believe it. If it's not, then it's probably not in our highest and best, to believe it. That's how I feel about it. So she says, the good news is there is no such thing as sin. We have nothing to be ashamed of in being human, in having a body, in feeling all that this body knows, which is lost to the intellect and beyond reason. We have nothing to be ashamed of or to ever have to hide when it comes to who we love. Who we love is not determined by our body or theirs, not their sex or their gender, but the soul that expresses it through it all. Why does it matter? Because it's a part of the division. The division is the lower vibration energy. Why does it matter who our soul loves? Right? And she happens to be a gay person, so she is a lesbian. So I think she's married. So who we love is not determined by our bodies or theirs, not their sex or their gender, but the soul that expresses it through it all. And the authority for speaking on behalf of this love comes from the depth of the transformation a person has undergone within themselves to remember who they really are. So I think any religion that is keeping people separate, that is not a form of love. You know why? When you look at the triangle, I know we're really off on off the Adam and Eve, but it's all kind of related. When you look at the triangle, at the very top, that source, is there any division up here? Any division at all? Then why are we acting from division at all? That's not what source wants for us. But see, we're down here in the third dimension, but that's the goal. That's what we need to remember. So if you think someone else is wrong because they're loving, it's different if they're hurting somebody, right? If they're loving somebody, that's source is full love. Source doesn't have that division, right? So interesting. Okay. Let's see. Was the story, okay, that's where I got going on that because the divine feminine. Yeah, that's why I got into that because, yeah, it's all manipulation, these stories. They're used to manipulate, to divide, to separate, to make others feel less than, So that's what they confirmed. Was the doctrine of original sin developed after the Genesis story was written? Yes. Okay, so the context, this is for me, is original sin is the belief that every person inherits a sinful nature because of Adam and Eve's actions in the Garden of Eden. It's just to keep everybody in fear. Very manipulative, which is an ego thing to do, And, then Christ came in and he said, wait. I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to fill you in on a few things. And guess who didn't like that? Yeah, the people in power, the people who wanted to keep people in fear, didn't like Christ coming in saying, wait. We don't need to be divided like this. There's no sin. You're good. Just act from love, or whatever. And then they didn't like that. To me, it's as basic as that. I know I'm going to be afraid to read these comments because, I'm just exploring here. That's all we're doing. But you guys are just going to be like, what the hell? This is a what the hell moment. If you are feeling like, what the hell, then just go say, what the hell? That's all you have to say. Then I'll know how many people are like, what the hell? Okay. Okay, so yeah, the original sin is the belief that every person inherits a sinful nature because of Adam and Eve's actions in the Garden of Eden. Okay. Were we actually born spiritually separated from God because of Adam and Eve? No. Because remember, we were all, and this is what's really cool about the Earth experiment, the book that we're reading now. This is how it is explained. So we were all up here at the very tip, and then God started, birthing us. Source. I want to experience, I don't want to just stay up here. I want to experience things. So we all came from up here, and then we had to descend. Right now we're ascending. We're going back up. We're trying to bring Earth to the 5th dimension. It's in the 4th right now, apparently. We're trying to bring it to the 5th dimension. Collectively, we decided that. Just like collectively, we decided to create Earth to have this experience. So when we were born from Source, we had to descend down. It took many, many, many thousands of years to descend because I'm sure it wasn't comfortable, in order to even get to Earth, so that's incredible, you guys. That is incredible. All of us here have done very incredible things to grow and to experience and to give Source more experiences. So pretty cool. It's very cool. But I never thought of us having to descend. It's like acclimating. We had to acclimate. So we were all born up here, So I know it's so hard to unlearn. Everybody's unlearning things right now. And its nervous systems get really whacked out of, you got to protect your nervous system as you are unlearning things. Okay, let's see. Which is why I don't think Christ is that excited. He wasn't that excited that it got so, warped. His message got really, bent out of shape. And there's a reason why they hid her gospel, like in 4 different places. They hid 4 copies of it. They buried it. I'm sorry they didn't burn it, but they buried it and it was found. So, okay. Was Lilith a real person? I'm going to have to do context on this. Oh, yes. So in some Jewish traditions outside the Bible, Lilith is described as Adam's first wife who refused to submit to him and later disappeared from the Genesis account. So Lilith, like, of this story, is Lilith a real person? Yes. Okay, so were Adam and Eve real people at some point? Okay, so we already did. Yeah, were they actually named Adam and Eve? The story that this is made up? No. Okay. So it's just like you and I making up stories right now. There's no difference. These humans were, well, if you believe in, who knows about the reptilian stuff. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole other layer. But let's just assume we're all humans. And we were spirits having a human experience. We descended. We came to Earth. And the ego's making up stories, wanting to control things. It's no different back then than it is now. It's, I think we think of them as very different. They were the same humans, again, unless they were, this whole reptilian thing that a lot of people, which I think the lead team has said is true. I don't know. That's a whole other thing. I'm just getting my head wrapped around this whole thing, so. Oh, goodness. Talk about nervous system adjustments. Okay, if Lilith was real, was she intentionally removed from the biblical narrative? Yes. Yes. It didn't meet their narrative. Just like things the narrative today is ridiculous. And it's so obvious now. It's so obvious now, which there's a reason for that too, which is cool. Is there a deeper spiritual message behind the Adam and Eve story that humanity has largely misunderstood? Yes. So what is the deeper spiritual message? Probably to trust yourself and not trust other storytellers. I don't know. Does correctly understanding, this is the last question, and then we have 2 personal questions. Does correctly understanding the Adam and Eve story help us better understand humanity's origins and purpose? Yes and no. Yes and no. Makes sense. Okay, so lead team, I've got 2 personal questions. Can you please tap into those who wrote these questions? Thank you. Okay. This person said, I was taught as a child that because Eve ate the fruit, even every person is born sinful and deserves punishment unless they are saved. Yeah. Was I taught an interpretation that caused me unnecessary shame and self-rejection? Yes. Yes. Which, you might have some feelings about that now, but at the same time, let that liberate you. Let that liberate you. That would be amazing. Okay. Or anyone else. You're not the only one who was taught that. That is basically the way you described that story was what I remember now. Here, learning. I mean, I went to CCD and I was confirmed and all that kind of stuff. I just don't have a lot of memory of those things because I just don't remember. I just choose not to remember. I only remember big picture stuff and not all the details, but okay. The second question, lead team, is would releasing the belief that I was born morally flawed? Oh, so that's just I'm such a feeler. I'm like, oh, morally flawed. That's so sad. Would releasing the belief that I was born morally flawed support my healing and spiritual growth? That is just so beautiful. Yes, you were not born morally flawed. Look at the babies. There is not a... No, I don't care. The evilest of evil humans they weren't born that way. They were not born that way. Now that could be a whole nother conversation, right? But look at a baby, you guys. Look at a baby. They were not born morally flawed. Can't convince me. They are pure love. They are pure love. I just got major chills. I mean, my arms are like, that was spirit saying, yep, yep, yep. They're pure love. Absolutely pure love. So, all right, you guys, I know I went off on a little tangent, but I'm trying to just bring everything I'm kind of learning together. And so that's, since I'm facilitating this conversation, you get to come along for the ride, apparently. So, yeah, highly recommend this book if you haven't read it. Really, really good. So, and the Earth Experiment is really good too, by Allison, I forgot her last name. I want to say Bird maybe, and Daniel Scranton. So, all right, you guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.